Welcome to the SoCal Car Scene Podcast, the exclusive place for coverage of car culture in Southern California and the personalities that drive it. I'm your co-host, Jay Marash. This show is associated with SoCal Classic Car Storage, which provides South OC car lovers the opportunity to secure their vehicles in an environment made just for them. Our two facilities feature advanced security systems, 24-hour video surveillance, and a dedicated members lounge. In addition to storage, our expert sales staff offers consignment services for those looking to sell their cars. For more information, visit us at our Laguna Hills location or at SoCalCarStorage.com or on Facebook at Facebook.com/SoCalCarStorage. And now, take it away, Dean.
Thanks, Jay, and welcome everybody to the SoCal Car Scene Podcast. This is your host, Dean Marash, and we're pumped up to have as our special guest today, Keith Martin. Keith's been involved with the collector car hobby for more than 30 years. As a writer, publisher, television commentator, and enthusiast, he is constantly on the go, meeting collectors and getting involved in their activities throughout the world. He founded the monthly Sports Car Market magazine 29 years ago, and has developed into the authoritative voice of the collector car hobby. Martin's second publication, American Car Collector, launched 4 years ago and continues to be the fastest growing collector car pub in America. His columns on collecting and reviewing exotic cars include the Ford GT and the Bentley Continental GT, have appeared in the New York Times. He's also been an MC at numerous car shows such as Pebble Beach, the Concours of America, Concorso Italiano, and Keels and Wheels. He's also hosted a number of television specials and is the co-host of What's My Car Worth, shown on the Velocity channel. He's been honored as a recipient of two of the most prestigious awards in the collector car hobby, the Lee Iacocca and the Edward Herman Award. He's also been inducted into the Concorso Italiano Hall of Fame. Most recently, Keith launched a podcast with Mark Green called Buy, Sell, Hold on Cars Yeah, where they talk to industry experts about the collecting hobby and help all of us car geeks on life's important car decisions. Whew.
Wow.
Thanks for joining us on the SoCal Car Scene Podcast, Keith. And that's the short version.
You know, Dean, the real version is always loved cars.
Right? Oh, my gosh.
You know, I mean, I feel like I think about looking back on 30, 40 years, all the great friendships, all the great trips, all the things that cars have done for me. And I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, what a great perspective. I mean, you know, people talk about this notion of doing what you love and you know, pursuing your passions. And, you know, not everybody gets that opportunity, but it sure seems like that's the case with you. Just reading through your bio and, you know, having to, you know, kind of truncate it quite a bit. But what a wonderful life, Keith, especially if you love and you're passionate about the cars as you are.
Well, I'd like to think, too, that with the magazine Sports Car Market, that we've really made a difference. We created the whole way that auction reporting has developed over the past 3 decades. I mean, if it weren't for us, there would have been nobody covering auctions and talking about prices and values the way that we do, and giving informed commentary, telling our readers what we think is a good buy or a bad buy. I mean, one of the terms that we coined early on was fright pig. So if you looked at a car and we called it a fright pig, that you immediately have an image, don't you?
Yes. Yeah. Do not buy that car.
Exactly. So I just think that I feel like we've really helped be a plus to the collector car community, and that's what I'm proudest of.
Hey, so I don't know, you know, we struggle to figure out where to start because we've got so much to talk about and so little time, Keith. But let's start with your health. How's your family's health? How's everybody doing in Portland with you and your family? And of course, I know you had a rough one a year or so ago, and you appear to be on the mend. It's a miraculous recovery, but let's start right there. How's everybody's health?
Well, sure. First of all, Portland has done a really good job of locking down, and while it's made the business community in disarray, the infections are very low. I think there's been 60 deaths total in our state. So
Incredible.
as strange as it is, I mean, I feel like I'm living in zombie apocalypse world.
Right.
Because I look out on the streets from my condo and there's no cars, no people. I I think that I want to call my friends and say, let's go across the street and get a glass of wine. And we can't do that. I can't even have my friends come over. So it's something that we've never lived through before. At the same
Amazing.
time, Oregon's doing pretty well. I have a 12-year-old son who lives with me half time. He's out of school,
Right.
and he's I I'd like to say that he's totally immersed in his online school activities, but I think there were just some new games released for the PS4, and he's immersed in something.
Well, that's one of my customers' fault, by the way. We
Yeah.
have a gentleman that owns and operates um, a business where they actually create games. They do millions of lines of code a year as a gaming company here in Orange County. And so they're probably busy keeping your son extremely
I know.
consumed right now as we speak.
Yes,
It's his fault.
I've got a 28-year-old daughter who works for Daimler Freightliner down here in Swan Island, and she's working from home. But she says that they are, they're really eager to get workers back into their factory so they can be building trucks.
I bet. Yeah.
But she's healthy. She's good. My own health, I had that stroke. It almost killed me last January.
No kidding. It was that severe. Wow.
But I was paralyzed. But I'm back. I'm riding a bicycle. I can walk about a mile. And my doctors tell me that my recovery will only be limited by how hard I work.
Wow. Incredible. Congratulations.
I feel like I've got a second.
start.
Like I've got a second chance at life, and it really it makes me appreciate really every second.
Wow. Well said. Yeah, we're excited to have you. You're an integral part of this community, an important part of the car community. So many businesses have been impacted in a significant way by this once in a lifetime pandemic or whatever you want to call it, COVID-19. But, I'm just guessing out loud that probably really hasn't impacted the publishing business other than it might be difficult to get things made. But what are you seeing as it relates to your sports car market and your car collector magazine?
Well, there's really two ways to look at it. The impact for us has been in advertising because as events are canceled, then the advertising that goes with them is canceled as well.
Well said.
Auction companies, if they don't know when they're going to have their next auction, they can't run any ads for it. So that said, we're down. Some, not hugely. Our subscriptions are staying up. People want something to read during this period of time. We are impacted, but we're reacting to it by reshaping the content of the book a little bit to talk about the virus and the industry.
Right.
We're in Italian, Italian coach builder Superleggera. Superleggera means super light. So I think we're going to, for the next couple of issues of Sports Car Market, it's going to be a super light or Superleggera, lightweight but intent. So we will focus more on things that people want to know about right now. What is happening to the industry? What's going to happen to the Concours? So we enlist people to talk to us about what their thoughts are and what the world will look like a couple of years from now.
It sounds like this is a great opportunity for more storytelling. We've noticed that in just the receptivity to podcasts, the opportunity to talk to people, the opportunity to slow down in life and bring families together. But I think the same is true possibly with your publications based on what you just said. Here's an opportunity to have a more bilateral conversation with your readership. Is that true?
Yeah, that's very well said. Because normally we would write about, that Jaguar looks better with disc wheels than it does with wire wheels. And now we have a larger question, which is, when will you feel comfortable going to a car show again?
Well, that's an important question. Nobody seems to know the answer, but maybe we'll all be wearing masks, gloves, and following little 6 foot marked off X's on the road or something in those
Well,
car shows.
well, we do know we'll get through it. We've gotten through tuberculosis. We've gotten through the measles. We've gotten through the plague. We've gotten through other pandemics in time. We just don't know quite what the other side looks like, but there is another side.
Right. Hey, so let's switch gears, and I agree with you. I feel real positive about our outlook. Not understanding what the timing is, but we're moving forward. That's what we do in this country,
Yeah.
especially as car people. We stay positive. But is it possible that each and every one of us car geeks, like myself, like Jay, like you, that there's always somebody to credit or somebody to blame? And if that's true, who the heck is it that created the incredible car enthusiast that you have become and this great career? Do you give credit or blame to somebody?
Well, I've always said that Martin Swig was my mentor. He created the California Mille. He was a mega dealer. He was one of the first Americans to ever go on the Mille Miglia. Great Alfa enthusiast. Even though he was very wealthy, he had cars that appealed to him as opposed to buying a big fancy Ferrari. So Martin always encouraged me when I started the magazine, the Alfa Market Letter, and always had that crazy, let's just get in the car and go for a drive sense about him. So I would call Martin my mentor in this situation.
There always seems to be one or two. And, in my life, it was my father. And poor Jay, I'm probably to blame. Jay, is it safe to say you blame me for this?
I blame you for everything, dude.
Yeah, of course.
That's fair.
Yeah. That's a good son.
Keith, do you notice how I let that hang and languish there a little bit?
Yeah, I'm
Just
thinking
American.
about my 12-year-old and how I can use your techniques as he ages here.
You won't find them in any book. I don't think they're recommended. But so, your magazines, going back to those, Jason and I are such big enthusiasts of American Car Collector and Sports Car Market. I think, it's safe for us to say that they're the lifeblood of our storage business here at SoCal Classic.
Well, thank you.
In all sincerity, they really are. Tell us how one goes from being a car enthusiast to diving into the publishing pool and wakes up one day and says, yeah, let's go make some car magazines. Well, how does that happen?
But before I do that, let me give our listeners here a way to get Sports Car Market in their own mailbox. And we've got a special promotional offer for your listeners. If they go to sportscarmarket.com/subscribe to the magazine and type in SoCal, SOCAL, they'll get 20% off. We don't normally discount this magazine, so that's a pretty good deal. And you can go to Sports Car Market and look at the website. So I'd like to invite them all to go there and sign up, get your discount, and then every month you get 150 pages of stuff that's written the way that car people talk. Everybody who writes for us is an enthusiast. And the way the magazine started was I was selling a bunch of cars overseas, and there was no kind of reporting on any of the auctions anywhere in the world. And I thought, well, maybe we should just do that. Just have these little snippets of information, and it grew over time into Sports Car Market. I haven't taken any classes in publishing. I'd like to claim that there was this master plan, but you remember that Atari video game Pitfall, where the guy's he's swinging.
I'm counting on you on that one.
The guy's just swinging on a vine, and he runs across the tops of alligators and things like that.
Oh yeah, good times.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the way Sports Car Market's been for 32 years. Just grab the vine and swing towards the future.
Well, you got to pound your chest a little bit, but that's amazing. So many stories of people's successful business is not about a business plan and not about the rigor, but just pulling on that thread and going down that path. And here you've become what we consider to be the Bible of all price guides. I mean, that's the first thing we pull out. And quite frankly, without it, we wouldn't be able to demonstrate our expertise and credibility here in our business. So
Uh-huh.
congratulations.
Well, thank you.
And I think everybody's going to enjoy subscribing. That's a great offer. Thanks for that.
Oh, we're glad to have them. And our renewal rate is so high. It's something like over 85%. And people, once you get this in your bloodstream, it tends to stay.
Well, there's no doubt about it. So,
well, I think I gotta follow up to that. As a former journalist myself, we've seen pretty much the decimation of newspapers, magazines, and all sorts of print media. How have you been able to stay in the game so long, and how do you keep with your success?
Well, I'm going to reveal to you my secret analysis of the entire communications industry of the past 15 years, if you promise not to tell anybody else.
I don't know about that. We are recording.
No, we promise, Keith.
Okay,
yeah.
Good, perfect.
Tell him what he wants to hear, Jay. Come
exactly. On. I love promises. What we have all lived through is the exposure of the fallacy that digital is the logical development or extension of print. Publishers loved digital because it was so cheap compared to print, right? No paper, no ink, no nothing. There has not been a single magazine that has transitioned successfully from print to pure digital. Not one. The Apple newsstand has gone away. The reason that is, people are realizing that the communication experience of a digital edition of a magazine is totally different than the communication experience of a print magazine.
Well, that's profound, and I think everybody thought it was going to be the same, but it makes sense to me that it's totally different. My appetite for long form is not there digitally, but when I pick up a book or a magazine, I don't have the ADHD disease that I do when I'm in front of a digital device.
Maybe it's something psychological.
Well, I think it's also a printed artifact commands your attention. In other words, you have to hold it and you have to focus on what is on the page in front of you. There's no clicking on a link. There's no going somewhere else. It owns your attention.
That's a great point.
Well,
so speaking of secrets, though,
yeah.
So far we've sworn to not tell anybody that one. but here's another one. Speaking of trade secrets, is there a supercomputer, a bank of servers that's crunching all the sales data for all these different car shows and sales elements that are going into the price guide?
Well, I'd like to think that everybody who works for us is a sentient supercomputer. We have people. We have a database that goes back 20 years, and it has over 300,000 transactions in it. And so
Incredible.
Every month, every transaction out there gets recorded into our database.
Every transaction.
Yeah, everyone that's reported publicly by an auction company. Now we don't. We take a couple of hundred a month that we review in the magazine, and we do those in detail with condition descriptions and analysis and stuff. But every sale that has a chassis number attached to it is in our database.
It's impressive. So are there a bunch of data heads somewhere, or a couple of them that are like the Wizard of Oz, writing algorithms and behind the scenes, some people in Portland, and nothing like that?
No, we have a couple guys in our office who are auction specialists, and they just clean the data up and enter it. And it's not a complicated process. It's time consuming. We have more staff than a lot of magazines our size, but that part of that is because we have so much more information in the magazine.
Right. Well, we have a lot of customers on the sales side, or what we call consignment. We're constantly talking about the evolution of prices and how markets go up and go down, like the 993 Porsche went up favorably for a period of time, and then it came down. And so it's so difficult for customers that are thinking about sticking their toe in the water from an investment standpoint. And without these kinds of publications like Sports Car Market, I I wouldn't recommend anybody get involved until they've, kind of have read these publications
Yeah.
and subscribed to them, and at least dive into the pool of the great content you guys produce.
Well, I hadn't thought of this before, but in a way, reading an issue of SCM is like going to a virtual auction.
Wow.
Because look you have the pictures of the cars, the descriptions. If you were there, you'd be talking to your buddies about that MGB and say, "Gee, I didn't know they had red piping on the seats that year. I thought it was white." But
those guys.
So if you were thinking of buying a car or getting into the collector car world, subscribing to Sports Car Market is a really easy way to dip your toe in.
Jay and I like to use your magazines for showing how smart we are or not as it relates to the pricing of many of these cars. And so oftentimes it's a very humbling experience, but we enjoy the speculation of testing or quizzing one another. It's quite a bit of fun.
Well, one of my life fantasies is for me to put a car in at an auction and to have the auction reporters write about it. There must have been 2 inebriated people in the room for the car to bring that kind of money. But instead, every car I ever run through, they say, "Yeah, that was about right."
Right.
So,
yeah, so you mentioned this earlier that not knowing what the future of car shows, that's certainly a question we don't know the answer to. But what about car museums like the incredible Peterson Museum here in LA that I've been to a number of times and Jay's been to, and then of course the LeMay, which you're associated with in Tacoma, in this post-COVID-19 world. Some thoughts about what this looks like going forward?
I think museums have an easier time because they can spread their people out. They can spread their admissions out. They can have X's on the ground. The real challenge is something, let's say like the Jet Party in Monterey, where you have 5,000 people all mingling around together, or Concorso Italiano or Pebble Beach, where you've got 5 to 10,000 people, and there's no way to socially distance that number of people.
Right.
That's going to be the challenge. The museums, I don't think is a big deal. With the tour, we had to postpone our tour. We have a 1,000-mile tour called the SCM 1000, and we postponed it till next July. The challenge is not when we're driving in the cars; it's when we all have lunch or dinner together.
Exactly.
And so it's just that part we'll be able to solve, but we wanted to push it off a year because everything was so uncertain.
Well, I hadn't really thought through that, to your point about what the impact will be when we Google and ogle and, whether we're looking at cars at a car show or we're hanging out at a breakfast joint after the car show in the morning. That is really an integral part of the, experience. And so none of us really know what that looks like, or maybe how our show, the show, the people that are heading up the show that are running it, how are they going to manage that? Are they expected to have some responsibility to keep people socially distant?
Well, and if you look at the bottom line from dollars, how will sponsors want to allocate their dollars if they have 10% of the expected crowd? And if you have 10% of the expected crowd, you only have 10% of the expected gate. There are all these things that trickle out. All these things we took for granted. We never, ever worried about getting too many people at an event.
And that in fact was the gauge of success.
That's right.
People stepping on each other.
So now, are you familiar with the Isolation Island concours that's going on?
I am. I've read up on it, and it's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, so I'm glad you brought it up.
Well, I'm the chief honorary judge because Sports Car Market is a sponsor, and we're a big backer of Andy Reid and what he's doing there. I think it's so cool. Bill Warner came up with, the head of Amelia Island, came up with the name, the Isolation Island. But it's so cool. People enter their model cars into this concours, and then we judge them and give awards. I give the SCM Choice Award.
Nice.
But yeah, no, it's fun. What a fun and safe way for people to still share their enthusiasm about cars.
Well, it takes me back to a more innocent time when I was a little boy, and before I, touched a car or turned a wrench, the first thing you did after you got your matchboxes was go down to the Five and Dime and buy a model, and
Right.
then build the model. And then when you really got good, you started customizing them and figuring out a way to make dents in them and way to jack up the rear end and all that stuff. So it really takes us back to, kind of our formative years, which is really, to me, that's the most exciting thing about it.
Well, that it's also people have such great passion. They write about their cars that they've entered, and this car has the right plug wires on it, and I mean, we're kind of car starved right now.
Well said. Hey, so you've got a lot of experience in the car scene, and we've already talked about how extensive that is. But switch gears a little bit. But when still staying with these events, you've emceed at some of the very best events and some of the most prestigious ones, like Pebble Beach. You mentioned Gills and Wheels, La Jolla Concours d'Elegance, which is right down the road here from J&I. Is this like your true Carnivana? Is that where Keith Martin's really in car heaven? Or tell us a little bit about that experience from your perspective.
Uh, Thank you for asking about that. I really love being the MC of Concours when I can make them run on time and be smooth and ensure that all the entrants and the participants are really having a good time. A good MC is a fabulous train conductor.
So how hard is it to keep them on time and running smoothly?
Well, La Jolla, the reason La Jolla, I'm always successful. I'm the most successful at ending on time at La Jolla of any concours that I am the MC of, for one reason. La Jolla is held in a city park, and their permit requires all the cars be out by 4. So, when people say, God, Keith, you always end at 4, I go, yeah, funny how that works.
You're not sharing with them some of your secrets.
No, right.
Okay.
No, I think that when you, as the MC, when you interview the right people and ask the right questions and you thank the right sponsors, you have the right rhythm and pacing. It's a theatrical experience, and I get great pleasure out of a show that runs really well from start to finish.
Feels like you're in charge of the Concours Orchestra, right? The conductor, if you will.
Well, yeah. So actually, there was a new owner at Concorso Italiano a few years back, and he was totally freaked out in the morning. A guy named Jack. He was didn't know which end was up because the Concours about to start. And I said, Jack, look, I said, in 10 minutes it's going to be 9 o'clock, and the color guard will come on, and we're going to start. I said, and pretty soon it'll be 4 o'clock, and the Concours will be over. And I guarantee you that no matter what you do, you can't stop it from getting from 9 to 4. I said, so you just relax, pour yourself a glass of wine, let me run the show, and I'll see you at 4 o'clock.
Probably the best advice Jack ever got.
Yeah, it was I really, you can't, it's going to start. And the other thing that people forget is that your audience there, it's not like figure skating compulsory where they're waiting for you to make a mistake. Right? The audience is very engaged, and I've been in situations where I'd say, and next up we're going to have a Hispano Suiza, and the car pulls up, and I go, well, actually, ladies and gentlemen, that is a Duesenberg. And nobody cares. I didn't get penalty points or people holding up yellow cards.
Yeah, right. Or a red card. So, hey, some of these events are pretty formal, right? Hoity-toity, if you don't mind me saying so. You have a funny story where something totally went off the rails and didn't quite map with the concours decorum?
I do have a story, but you can't tell anybody.
Okay. Jay, are you committed like I am? Okay.
Are you putting the white noise on now?
Yes.
So I was at a concours in Southern California that is no longer around. And they had me take the Best of Show out. And I might have been a Bugatti, I don't remember. And I gave them the trophy, physically handed the winners the trophy. I got back up to the stage, and the people said, we made a mistake. That's not actually the car that got best of show. Would you mind going out and getting the trophy back from them? I said,
Would you mind?
I said, well, okay. So I went out and I said, we made a mistake. We'd like the trophy back. The guy said, forget it.
Smart guy.
He said, I'm keeping the trophy. Good luck.
Bye.
Yeah.
Stepped on the gas pedal. He was out of there.
So that was quite a moment.
Wow. Well, it kind of reminds me of that Miss America pageant or Miss Universe. That was hilarious. Same kind of thing. Never mind. Just kidding. You're not going home with the crown today.
Yeah, that's right. But my daughter.
And the Oscar goes to La La Land.
Well, what it made me think about when I used to vintage race, my daughter was younger then, and part of what she liked to do on Saturdays was we'd go to garage sales, and she loved bowling trophies. Right? She's 7 or 8 years old, and they'll, when people are moving, these bowling trophies, they're 2 feet tall, they're huge, and I'd always give her a quarter and say, go and see which trophy they'll sell you for a quarter. and she always come back with something bigger than she was. So we were vintage racing one day, and I finished, and she said, Daddy, did you win a trophy? And I said, no, I didn't win a trophy. She goes, well, I've got a quarter. Let me go buy you one.
Bringing it full circle. That's a great daughter.
So I thought, we should have kept a spare bowling trophy by the stage just in case. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. How about this trophy? So what if it says Jimmy Smith, best in Class A?
Hey, these trophies are shrinking in size. That's a great idea. Bring some of these huge ones from the past, from stuff like bowling and baseball, Little League and stuff like that, where they give you those ridiculously too large trophies, and just, take a little plaque and a badge and put it on there. I think everybody would be happy.
Good idea. I like that.
Okay, good.
Of course, you might want to remove the person bowling from the trophy.
Okay, fair enough. So, you know what? You, like we've said earlier, your history, your career is just incredibly broad. So I want to talk a little bit of TV here. And
sure.
The reason why I'm bringing this up right now is everybody's at home streaming, watching shows, and catching up on everything. So I'm thinking that they're probably watching, some of your What's My Car Worth episodes. It's either that or Tiger King. So I understand, right? So it's probably What's My Car Worth, because nobody's watching Tiger King. So how much fun was that? I mean, you've done some television, and, was that just something incredibly special? Are you still enjoying television? Give us some insight into that.
Yeah, the producer and the creator of that show was a man named Roger Williams, who was with ESPN and then with Speed Vision. And we thought it was a very clever idea, because we would analyze the car and then predict what we thought it was going to bring when it sold at an auction. And because the show didn't air for 2 or 3 months after the actual auction, whatever we said couldn't possibly affect the price.
Interesting.
When I was doing live cast from some auctions, on some auctions for Speed Vision, the problem with those, if you're live cast, you don't want to say the wrong thing and put somebody off or damage the value of their car.
Makes sense.
But What's My Car Worth was great fun, and we enjoyed it. I think we had 5 or 6 year run.
Wow.
And the ratings were pretty good. And then the channel changed hands, and we weren't able to secure a sponsorship to go forward. The reruns are still on and actually do pretty well. I liked the show because we could look at cars and talk about their strengths and their weaknesses, and talk to the owners of the cars, because owners always have stories.
And that's really what the car world seems to always be about. Is it the car, or is it the story, or is it really how it brings people together? I'm not quite sure I know the answer to that, but I guess it varies for everybody. But car people are storytellers for whatever reason.
Well, I've thought about that. I've been selling, I had 7 Alphas, and I've sold a couple of them to make room for a couple other cars I bought. And I've done a lot of things with my kids in some of these cars, but I realized that when I sell the car, I don't sell the memories. I'm just selling the car.
Great perspective. And my sisters get close to my the 57 T-Bird that I have here at our facility. It was my dad's car. and whenever they're around, they get very emotional about that car because there's a lot of memories. But the memories are still there, right? Even if the car's not here, the memories they'll never leave you.
Well, the memories are there. And also, like all these times when I was with my daughter, Alexandra, in our 67 GTV, uh, she was 16, 17, 18. She's 28 now. So she's never going to be 16 again in that car. We're never going to do the road trips again. We've already done them. So now it's time to do new road trips and new experiences in different cars.
Jay and I like to do road trips. We got to a point where we were doing road trips with his car and my car, and
Uh-huh.
that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's well, we don't argue when we're in different cars, which is pretty
Well,
much
the
the key.
person in the back can talk about how the person in the front doesn't know where the hell they're going.
That's true. That's
Jay,
true.
do you still want to go on a road trip with your old man, or are you over that?
Yeah, man, let's go. I'm down.
Okay. All right, he's down. I think that means he wants to do it, so we're going to do it.
You should.
So one of the things, and thanks for sharing that with us. It's a television world. I think that a lot of people, watch but don't participate. It's a very small industry, and getting a chance to participate in it must be rewarding and validation of the good work that you're doing. But it just seems like a world away. So I thought I'd
Well, thank you.
inquire.
Yeah.
Hey, so one of the things that we're a little surprised about right now, and other people are surprised as well, is that car sales in this turbulent time that we're in are actually seem to be upticking a little bit as far as the activity is concerned. We can't say that the prices are there. We don't know how it compares with previous periods as far as prices are concerned. We suspect those prices are down, but here, at least from our business experience, we've noticed a slight uptick in activity. Now, in my lame analysis, I've said, well, people are at home. They've got time on their hands. And, if their spouse isn't watching, they could sneak out and go buy a car and nobody would know the difference. But that's pretty rudimentary analysis. What's your take on the market right now as it relates to selling and buying cars? Or is it still too early to determine what's happening here?
Well, are you basing your information here on private transactions you're aware of because of your business?
Yes.
And the information you have is that it's fairly lively.
Yes.
Yeah, you look at the only real visible
That's anecdotal.
marketplace right now is Bring a Trailer.
Oh, you mean as far as ongoing because of the all the shows that have been shut down?
In other words,
all the auctions.
it's the only, many car dealerships are shut. Like I know Fantasy Junction is completely shut. And so, and there are no other real big land auctions. So the Bring a Trailer is the one place where you can kind of see a constant stream of cars. I bought my a 71 V12 Jag Coupe on Bring a Trailer just as the virus was starting to settle in, and I think I saved about $10,000 on it because people were not sure which way things were going to go. I've seen the prices on Bring a Trailer go up in the past 2 or 3 weeks, partly because it's the only game in town.
I thought that's where you were going, and I think you might be right. Private car sales are still happening,
Yeah.
but all these other, let's say, all the dealerships across the country, plus all the the larger classic car sales, businesses are shuttered temporarily, and the auctions, the auctions are still around, right? But they're doing the virtual approach, so it could be the demand is exceeding supply because it's a temporary shutdown or partial shutdown.
Yeah, I am certainly not seeing any fire sale prices on Bring a Trailer. Not one.
Wow. Jason, that might be the answer to the question you and I have been curious about.
Yeah, we've been trying to ponder about it for quite a while here, and we're like, well, what does it really mean? What's it all going to? And then there's even the aspect of, well, so Dad's hypothesis is that when the market goes down, people start putting assets into cars. So a down economy doesn't necessarily mean a down market in cars either.
I would agree with that. I also think that most of the people that own cars can afford them. So they're not having to sell their car to pay the rent. And they can just sit and wait. This is, there's I mean, first of all, there's no tours to go on. You can't drive your car. Why not just wait and see how things are in a few months?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And if anything, the prices may have just gone down just a little bit, so it might even be a good time to buy.
Yeah, I just don't see this when we've had recessions in the car market before, the late 80s and stuff, people wanted out of cars. Well, this recession has nothing to do with the economy. It has to do with the virus. So it's not like people are saying cars are a bad investment. I want to get out of cars. I want to put my money into gold. It's just the whole transaction part has just come to a halt.
Yeah, that's such a great point, and it is not a traditional recession from that perspective. It's a unprecedented response to an invisible threat, and hopefully, it's a really short time frame, unlike a 2-year recession. Hopefully, so great.
Well, how are these auction houses going to respond? I mean, are they going to start, really pushing digital auctions and bring cars digitally across a block in an empty stadium? Or
I've been
like
interviewing the heads of auction companies for a new section in Sports Car Market called the Road Forward, where we talk to people in the industry about what they're going to do. All of them are going to enhance their online offerings. They already had online bidding to a limited extent, and they always took phone bidders. They were moving towards more digital auctions, and part of the push there came from them watching the success that Bringer Trailer was having with more inexpensive cars. Every one of them says they're going to enhance the digital experience in terms of bidding online, but they all intend to be back with land auctions because they believe that part of what a land auction does is it brings the collector car community together, and that people see each other and talk cars, and that it's a social situation that can never be replaced by a digital situation.
Yeah, and they're fun. Yeah. They provide a lot of entertainment. There's a rush to them.
Well, they're live theater.
That's great perspective and good dialogue. Recently, you've again expanded your horizons. We're podcasting, obviously, with you, but you joined forces with the incredible podcaster Mark Green of Cars Yeah fame and producer of his great show. And now you've launched Buy, Sell, Hold podcast.
Yeah.
So this is really a new adventure for you. Are you having fun? What do you think of podcasting and share the car goodness in the community?
Obviously, I would encourage any of your listeners you go on to any of the podcast sites and you search Buy, Sell, Hold, and we'll show up. What we've done is taken some very special collectors like John Shirley, who won Best of Show at Pebble, or Simon Kidston, a big collector from Europe, and asked them to describe one car where the buying of it was special to them, one car where the selling of it was special, and one car that they'll never let go of.
It's a great form.
Well, what you do then is you get 3 stories. And I do believe that collecting is made up of buying and selling and holding. I mean, those are the 3 actions that are involved in the car collecting world.
I listened to the one most recently, or not, the most recent one that I listened to was the one with Donald Osborne.
Uh-huh.
And he's just got some unique takes on his experience. He's a great, concise storyteller, but each word you're just waiting for the next one. What a great car enthusiast, specialist, and storyteller he is.
He is, and our car collecting community is so lucky to have him with his background in the arts as an opera singer, multilingual, cultural. I mean, he brings a whole new dimension to the car community.
Yeah, well, you've got some of that artistic background as well, so don't sell yourself short, right?
Well, I've told I was a professional dancer and I studied at the Juilliard School, and I told Donald, if he promises not to dance, I promise not to sing.
Hilarious. Did he agree to that?
I can't tell you.
Another secret. Don't worry, your secrets are safe with us today, Keith.
You're like the master of secrets.
Exactly,
there,
I'm the
Keith.
keeper.
Yeah, the keeper.
And if people subscribe for 25 years, I'll reveal my secrets to them. How's that?
Hey, all right. Hey, you said it. Hey, verbal contracts are binding.
I know.
Be
You
careful.
guys ask great questions. It's really a real pleasure to talk to both of you.
Oh, that's great. Well, that's great. We've gotten a lot
Thank
of
you very
secrets
much.
out of Keith today, Jay, which has been fun. So,
I know, right? Without torturing him.
okay,
too.
so this next question is not
Yeah.
going to be a secret.
Okay.
I was born in Tacoma, Washington, right?
Okay.
And we used to go up to Gig Harbor, Washington for our family get-togethers every summer. But in an unfortunate set of circumstances, I've never been to the LeMay Museum in Tacoma, and neither has Jay. And you're on the board of trustees,
Yep.
so what are we missing? And if we don't get there and we don't knock this off our bucket list, is that going to be a really bad car enthusiast life when, on our tombstone they never made it to the LeMay Museum? Tell us about that.
I think you should go. I mean, you think about car museums of scale. There's the Peterson, there's the Mullen, and then it gets pretty thin on the ground. The LeMay it's a purpose-built building. It's got a lot of cars in it. It's an fantastic location in Tacoma, easy to get to. The Chihuly Museum is not far away. You can see his glass. So I think that you should go, and if you could go when they're having some themed event, like
Okay.
sometimes they'll have Friday nights and they'll project movies like a drive-in theater.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, so if you go when there's something happening, then I would spend 3 or 4 hours in the museum and then do the event that night or something. But kind of make it so it's not just the cars; it's the cars and the experience.
Well, Peterson does quite a bit of that as well, right? They've got a lot of events on the calendar
Yeah,
throughout the course of the year. Of course, they did, and I'm sure they're just anxious to get it fired up. But so the story that intrigues me about that museum is the gentleman that provided the majority or many of the cars. If I remember correctly, he had like some 3,000 cars, and it was in his trust that he insisted that the heirs provide for their well-being and set up some kind of a museum. And of course, it didn't quite go off as planned. But tell us about that guy. I can't remember his name.
his name's Harold LeMay, and he owned a waste disposal company, dump trucks,
That's right.
garbage
That's
trucks.
right.
And
That's right.
he would pay his guys, like if they saw a cool car and they'd tell him, he'd give him like $20. So all of his garbage truck drivers were his scouts and car finders.
Love it.
Oh, and he had 3,000 or so cars in just one shack after the next. And then it was decided they should really be codified and put into a more formal museum setting. And they obviously they sold off a lot of them. And there was controversy at the beginning, but look at the controversy around the Peterson Museum. Bob Peterson had to donate it and then buy it back. I think whenever you're creating something new, it's never smooth and easy.
And isn't there a second museum where a lot of his cars are? Is it a more private and less public museum? Or
Yeah. I don't know much about that. I think it's part of the family, and they have a separate museum. But I've just never been involved with that, so I just don't know.
What a great story. I love car stories like that, where it's so important to him that he makes sure subsequent generations can benefit from his sickness or his enthusiasm, depending on how you look at it. That's great.
I just think it's amazing how much money there is to be made off waste disposal.
Yeah. How about giving your guys that ride the garbage truck extra bonus opportunities when they spot nice cars?
Well, I have said to people, if I had started, instead of Sports Car Market, if we had started, Garbage Land Central, we wouldn't. There'd be no Pebble Beaches in Garbage Land Central. We'd be at transfer stations all over the world, which is not the same.
So you we'll plan to be there, Jay. We're got to go. It's on. I think a road trip's in order, Jay, all the way to Tacoma. We're going to hit the LeMay, and then we'll visit our family in Gig Harbor, Washington. What do you say?
Yeah, I'm down for that. I've never made that trip, but I heard it's solid day.
Well, when
so.
when you come up this way, let me know, because maybe we can gang up and have a little mini caravan.
That'd be great.
Oh, we would
There's
definitely
some
love
back
that.
ways to get there that are the I-5 corridor from Portland to Tacoma is like death. You know, I mean, it's like so boring that you would shoot yourself before you drive that. But we can find other ways to get there.
I think, as I recall, making those trips in the past, Jay, with some of my friends, we'd stop at places like the Tillamook Cheese Factory, some underground caves, the Olympic.
Oh, dude, let's go to the Tillamook Cheese Factory.
Sure.
Their ice cream.
There's an Olympia Brewery, which is mandatory drive and stop, and then, well, anyway, I shouldn't recommend that. But
Rainier beer.
I don't even know where Rainier beer is. Is that near? Where is Rainier beer?
Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
Nobody knows. So let's talk. You mentioned a little bit. We're running out of time, but I want to bring up your daughters. You mentioned them earlier. You've got a couple, I believe. So did they catch the? One.
A daughter who's 28 and a son who's 12.
So the daughter caught the car virus from you, I assume. And tell us about her and what she drives, and did you drag her into the car scene, or did she come willingly?
No, I taught her to drive when she was 12 on a VW thing on the beach in Lincoln City. We folded the windshield down and took the doors off. And in Oregon, it's legal to drive on the beaches. And
at 12?
Well, that's a different question. But I remember her saying, I said, Alex, you can't reach the pedal. She said, wait, Dad. And she ran upstairs and got a pillow and 2 phone books and said, okay. And we spent an hour chasing seagulls and shifting up and down from first to second on the beach. And she just loved it. And I got her a motorcycle a little bit after that. Her first car, her personal car, was a BMW 318i, a 5-speed. I've got a 65 Alpha Giulia Spider Veloce that she's laid claim to. So she and I have driven in Italy and in France and on U.S. rallies. She loves cars. She's in a new product development at Daimler with Freightliner, and they just had her get her Class A license, so she can drive with a 45-foot semi behind her.
Impressive. Well, you've raised her right. All us car people will say you've raised a perfect young lady.
It's very gratifying to me to be able to feel like her experience with cars has played into her career, because at Daimler, I'm sure they enjoy having a young woman who's also a car girl.
I bet they do. So what's next for you, Keith, in your career and in your publishing business? I mean, you've got so many irons in the fire, but is there something that, from the super secret files that you're working on that's about to launch, or are you more curious about just what's going to happen in this post-COVID-19 world?
Yeah, you ask a good question. First of all, the most important thing to me is my continued rehab from my stroke.
Of course.
Every day I'm working on it. I'm getting better. Will I walk without a cane again? I don't know, but I'm out of a wheelchair and I'm not paralyzed. And so like I said, I feel blessed that I've had this much recovery. I think now we're all kind of hunkered down through the virus thing. I think the magazine, as I said, with the people understanding that print is different than digital, we're positioned well because we've always been a luxury product that was never cheap. We were never $9.95 a year. And so we have subscribers who pay the $72 or 20% off to your readers. Forgive me for interjecting that again, but if they go to sportscarmarket.com/subscribe and put SoCal in, they'll get 20% off of the magazine.
It's awesome.
I've got a 12-year-old son who loves cars. And so watching him grow up is a joy for me. So I think it's the family, personal rehab, and then understanding where print magazines fit in this new world. Those are kind of the things that I'm preoccupied with every day.
Well, congratulations on your incredible recovery from a terrific health challenge. You inspire everybody. You certainly inspire me, and I hope that all the audience members feel the same way. So many people like today, they're in, maybe affected by this COVID-19, and it seems overwhelming. But the fact that you continue to work so hard and you're so committed demonstrate that every day is worth living, and every day is a blessing. So we're just thankful to be able to not only share your car story today, but to be able to share that your recovery and how important it is to keep on keeping on in this incredible car world. So I can't thank you enough for being on our show today.
My pleasure. And you guys have asked great questions, and you got all my secrets but one, but I can't tell you that one.
It's a secret, right?
Well, I don't know if you've heard it.
Yeah, I got him trained. I'm getting him trained.
Well done,
Jay is giving his own Jay.
Yeah, that's right.
Here.
Exactly.
And so, by the way, we do have a green room. I don't know if you've heard about that, but the podcast green room for SoCal Car Scene is next up. No, actually, all kidding aside, we've joked about that, Keith, because sometimes when we have people in our podcast studio down here, we'll have a conversation for another half hour, and next thing you know, you're like, "No, that's a great question. What a great answer."
Yeah, after the podcast.
I understand.
We live our best work for after the show, just so you know.
Yeah, right. When we're not under the gun.
Great.
Well, it's been great talking to you both. I really appreciate this opportunity. And Dean, thanks for reaching out to me.
You're amazing, and thank you. Jason, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah. Well, hey, Keith, thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you for doing your plug again, because I was going to ask you to do that, so good on you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we look forward to connecting with your listeners and sharing this great collector car world with them.
Oh yes, and it is a wonderful magazine. Even if you're not even into like the whole selling of cars, there, at least maybe not even an industry professional. There's a lot of intriguing articles about car customization, about selling, what car is hot, and so just I would definitely go and subscribe to that magazine right away. Thank you so much, Keith. That was Keith Martin of American Car Collector Magazine and the Sports Car Market. You're listening right now to Jason Marash, who's the technical director of the show, and you were also hearing Dean Marash, who is the host and the owner of SoCal Classic Car Storage, which this show is brought to you by. If you like us, please give us a like and a subscribe, and also leave us a review. That'll go a long way to helping us out here at the SoCal Car Scene and keep delivering you great content. We're sorry we didn't get back to you last week. It was crazy with all this coronavirus thing. Everybody's just adjusting. So we will do our best we can to get on a regular schedule. So go visit us on our pages over at facebook.com, the SoCal Car Scene, or on Instagram at the SoCal Car Scene. That'll do it for us here today. Stay safe out there, stay healthy, and happy driving. Driving.